Special thanks to Zintrax for helping me out with this article. And this is a very interesting article. I think the reason that I had to make this video is because a lot of people don't really understand its purpose. A lot of people have analyzed it, but I'm not really happy with the conclusions that most people got. So one of the main things that I would like to point out is that I don't think this article is here to attack a specific YouTuber. I think this article is supposed to attack the platform as a whole. And we can see this from the history of the Wall Street Journal attacking YouTube in the past. Their first attack was against PewDiePie, who they considered was making offensive jokes regarding the Jewish people. Now, this attack caused the adpocalypse, because what the Wall Street Journal did was to put into the mind of people that if you watch a YouTube video and you see an ad, that specific company endorses that YouTube video. I don't think I actually heard people say this in the past regarding YouTube, but after the Wall Street Journal, a lot of other mainstream media outlets hyped this up and created it a thing into the public perception. And I think many companies were actually upset regarding this, because if before you were a company and you just pay YouTube some money so that they can show your ads, now you have to worry about PR, because if your ad is placed on a controversial video, that might affect how people view your company, thanks to the Wall Street Journal. And the reason the Wall Street Journal makes these articles, I don't think is to remove extremism from the YouTube platform. The Wall Street Journal has no problem hiring journalists like Ben Fritz, which is the actual person who wrote the PewDiePie article, who has an avatar of South Park that also makes fun of the Jews, and who also makes jokes about Jewish people on Twitter. So it's blatantly obvious that the article is not about protecting the feelings of the Jewish community, or that they're concerned about racists on YouTube. No, their whole purpose is to make it more difficult for content creators to get money. So they attacked the ad revenue and created the apocalypse. However, a lot of content creators managed to get an alternative way of making income. The live streaming community is quite profitable for some YouTubers who get money from super chats. And a lot of people who are watching politics on YouTube could have read the Wall Street Journal or some of the other legacy media. And in order for the Wall Street Journal to crack down on competition, they decided to write another article about super chats. Now, a lot of people are blaming the kill stream for bringing the ire of the mainstream media on YouTube. But I don't think that the kill stream is responsible. I think if it wasn't for the kill stream, they would have gone for someone else. As you can see in this article, they're already going after JF. And if it wasn't for JF, they would have probably gone after Andy Worski. And if it wasn't Worski, they would have gone after America. And if it wasn't America, someone else. They would have found someone in order to make this article. This article is not about complaining about people, in my opinion. It's about complaining about super chats as a whole. And you can see this in the title, right? They point out that hate speech on live super chats, right? So that this is their whole shtick. They want YouTube to crack down on this new way of people making money. And at the end of the day, super chats are a crowdfunding way. People give super chats to YouTubers because they like the content that they're seeing. And it's a way of saying thank you to the channel. Now, let's go through the article. Hours after Robert Bowers stormed the Tree of Life synagogue in Pittsburgh, far-right personality Ethan Ralph launched a live stream on YouTube to discuss the shooting. So this is already tying Ethan Ralph to a terrorist attack. Like in the very beginning, they're poisoning the well as if Ethan Ralph has anything to do with it. The reason that they mention this and tie it to Ralph is to create a moral panic. People are more willing to draconic measures and to give away things they have if they're afraid. And in this case, it's to convince people that a public platform that used to be almost free of censorship 6 years ago should start having more and more draconian censorship methods in order to prevent people like Robert Bowers. It's a very big stretch and very disingenuous, especially from a website like the Wall Street Journal. Then they also call Ethan Ralph to be a far-right personality. Now, if Ethan Ralph were to want to preserve the purity of the white race and to create a ethno-state, burying a Pakistani woman doesn't seem like the way to do that. And despite the history that I have with Ralph, I still feel that I should be charitable with him and point out that this conversation from a DM I had with him in September, way before this article was released, he points out that he's not big on Holocaust denial. And the only reason that he got far-right personalities on his platform is because he thought it would be entertaining to pit a person like Mark Collett versus a person like Atheism is Unstoppable. Basically, he thought it would be entertaining for the audience to have a Holocaust denier debate a person who hates Holocaust deniers. And that's what Ralph does. He is an entertainer. And in this case, he thought it would be entertaining to have these two people go at it. And it shows how lazy the Wall Street Journal really is. They could have gone for Ralph for numerous reasons and numerous offenses that would have also made the list and would have been accurate. Instead, they choose to blame a terrorist attack on Ralph and also call him far-right. This is lazy tabloid publication horseshit rather than actual journalistic investigation done by the Wall Street Journal. So after poisoning their well, they go after the feature of super chats, pointing out that during the live stream, which YouTuber since deleted, one user paid £2 to write how you get a Jewish girl's number roll up her sleeve, and another $5 to say if you want to know if the synagogue shooting was a false flag, then check out the Lucky Larry life insurance policy on those dead Jews. Now, there are many super chats that I have seen on YouTube, including on Ethan Ralph's channel, and some of them are indeed anti-Semitic. But these two ones that the Wall Street Journal decided to pick up are jokes. And again, I need to remind you that one of their own writers at the Wall Street Journal is fine with jokes. He likes South Park, a show where there are a lot of jokes, especially against the Jewish people. And it's very hypocritical of them, and I don't believe that the purpose for this article is out of concern over the super chats features. Again, the purpose of this article, in my opinion, is to attack the income of creators on YouTube and make people feel more afraid when putting out content for YouTube. The message is clear: sanitize your content, or else the Wall Street Journal might make an article and you can lose your channel. Not to mention, this is absolutely ridiculous. The onus seems to be put on the content creator, the person actually making the video. The person making the video can't have any control of what super chats the people in the crowd are sending him. Based on the Wall Street Journal mentality, all I would have to do would be to get 20 people or so, go on the Young Turks, start sending 14.88 pesos to the Young Turks in super chats and add some offensive Jewish jokes there, and then the Wall Street Journal might write an article. This is a very ridiculous standard, and I think the Wall Street Journal knows that this is a ridiculous standard, which is why they actually did it. For content creators to be afraid when they're making content on YouTube. Then they talk about that YouTube has permanently removed Mr. Ralph's channel from its platform for policy violations and for going against its terms of service. This is also interesting. Usually you get a community strike when you do something bad. The scary thing about Ralph is that he got removed entirely from YouTube. And when he went to have another conversation on Zidane's channel also got removed. And then a lot of channels that were archiving the kill stream got removed as well. Now, I know that a lot of people don't like Ethan Ralph, and I'm not exactly buddy-buddies with him either. But people need to disassociate Ralph from this story. It's not about Ethan Ralph. It is about what just happened, and the fact that it can happen again to other creators. And that this article is an attack on the YouTube community as a whole. Ethan Ralph has since moved to a different platform, and all of his subscribers and fans have moved with him. And there are other live streamers who aren't as edgy as Ralph, who don't feel safe on the platform anymore and are considering or have already moved to other platforms as well, taking their subscribers and their fan base to a competitor. And YouTube, in my opinion, made a bad decision. YouTube should have given Ralph a warning or at least communicate with him. For those of you who don't know, again, even if you like Ethan Ralph or not, the reality is his stream was several times top trending on YouTube. He was very good at what he was doing, entertaining people. And because of that, he got into the crosshairs of the mainstream media, which sends a message to other YouTubers that if you grow too much and you become quite large, then you start having additional risks to your channel. Mr. Ralph's channel had 22,500 subscribers. I think the subscribers are irrelevant. When you're in the live streaming community, it's not the subscribers that matter, it's the actual people watching your stream, and he had quite a high number for a YouTube streamer. Again, accusing him of being far-right, who have used the super chat function to take money. Well, I think this is the purpose of the super chat function. Topic among such users can be wide-ranging, from events like the tragedy in Pittsburgh and the confirmation of the Supreme Court of Brett Kavanaugh to internal debates among members of the far-right online communities. And again, this is factually inaccurate. First of all, I would like to point out that this is what the mainstream media does. They also take tragedies, write articles about it, and then put ads on them. Some journalists even editorialize the tragedies and put a political spin on it, and they also have ads on them. So it seems that the journalists, they want to monetize human misery, they want to monetize these tragedies, but they don't want their competitors to do the same. For some reason, it's abhorrent when a YouTuber does it. In fact, I'm willing to bet that this video itself is going to be put in a limited or a no ad status. Because this is what happens on YouTube when you talk about the tragedy. However, you have comedians on Comedy Central, you have journalists and the mainstream media who are constantly talking about tragedies. Breaking news, breaking news. Let's see this woman being ran over in slow motion. Coming up right after the commercial break. Now, apparently, the lie that they put here is that Ralph only has members of the far-right online community. That is not true. I mean, he actually had Atheism is Unstoppable. I don't think anyone would call him far-right. Anyone that wanted to go on the kill stream, as far as I know, was allowed to go. You know, unless he even takes call-ins. Like, literally anyone can join that place. So, again, like really poor, shoddy job by the Wall Street Journal. I would expect this from some random publication, from a tabloid, but really, the Wall Street Journal, do you have no standards anymore? I guess like most people who are reading this, they don't know about the situation, so they're not going to investigate, but as someone who's on YouTube and I know who Ethan Ralph is, again, like there are so many things you can criticize him on, and there are so many things that he does that are unethical, but what the Wall Street Journal accuses him of is not the case. You can maybe make an article saying that he platforms hate. I mean, this is a thing that goes on in the media right now, platforming hate. I guess, yeah, I disagree with the principle, and you can say, yeah, that's true, but him himself is not far right. He's monetizing hate, another interesting one, yeah. It's fucking crazy. Like these human emotions, they need to be stopped, shouldn't they? We need to stop monetizing envy now. You know, this is what the next goal should be. And then we need to go after jealousy and any other human emotion that's in the negative spectrum. Hate speech and content that promotes violence is prohibited on YouTube. We have also been working over the last several months to refine our policies on who has access to monetization features, and they're constantly trying to improve this. Now, I disagree with this because if Ethan Ralph was encouraging violence, that would be a criminal offense, and the Wall Street Journal would have called in the authorities. But since none of it happened, they know it's full of shit. This is just for the public court of opinion. It's not something that Ethan Ralph actually did. Most super chats are a few $100s in revenue, according to an analysis, with YouTube typically collecting 30%. They're robbing me of 30%? Jesus Christ. Okay, right. Like other popular social media platforms, YouTube has struggled to draw the line between cracking down on hate speech and allowing freedom of expression. No, see, I disagree with this. It's not a dial. Either you have it or you don't. It's an on and off speech. Either you have freedom of expression or you don't. There's no such thing as like a dial. And from what I've seen in a previous video, according to Google, they want to move away from the American system of free speech into the European system of values, which is dignity and preserving dignity and civility. As in censorship, it's another word for the concept. Super Chat was launched last year to further encourage these creators to produce more content and attract more viewers. Paid comments receive special treatment. The video host often reads the comments out loud on air, and it gets pinned on the top. The more someone pays, the longer the comment stays featured. While the Super Chat function is available to YouTube, vast cast of video celebrities, and was made primarily to appeal to gamers, it hasn't gained the same traction or scale among those groups as it has with the far-right crowd. The Young Turks had Super Chats. I mean, are you going to whip people for not giving them money? If anything, like, if what you're saying is true, and I don't agree with, it's not the far-right crowd that gets Super Chats, okay? Anyone that live streams can get Super Chats. But if that's the case, you're just pointing out there's a big market for the far right. So the conversation should be, why is there such a big market for the far right and how do you stop it? Because if you just get the creator to go away and you just deplatform the creator, the market will just go somewhere else. Like, you haven't really solved the problem, have you? But again, this is a too complicated discussion for the Wall Street Journal, like how to tackle far-right extremists. I genuinely think that the mainstream media likes the far-right because look how they're always used as a boogeyman. There is a thing, if you read the book Harvest of Sorrow, where Stalin was actually inventing a party that didn't exist in order to persecute people. And this is, like the whole idea. If the far right wouldn't exist, they would have to create it. It's really good to fearmonger and to create a panic in the population in order to justify for the things that they're doing. Every single authoritarian measure is justified by something. I mean, look at what 9/11 got. The Patriot Act, Guantanamo, like all of these things that the Americans most likely wouldn't have stood by were then allowed because people were afraid. Racist comments are not uncommon. Just as troubling, according to researchers, are the comments that stay within YouTube guidelines to avoid getting taken down through the use of coded language in place of hot-button topics as slurs. For instance, some commentators say the term basketball Americans rather than a slur against African Americans, population replacement. These people are never happy, honestly. It's like, look, they're not breaking the guidelines, but they're thinking about it. It's like, well, I'm sorry, but the thought police doesn't exist. Do they use the slurs or not? But what is it with this bullshit? Many payments, for example, are made as 1488. The number is used shorthand among white supremacists to signify their ideology. Yeah, but how many of them use it actually in good faith, like they're actually promoting the ideology, and how many of them use it as a joke? Oh my god, I can't believe I'm defending this again. What they're doing is transmitting these ideas in other ways. Again, so the problem is transmitting ideas. That is their main issue. It's like, okay, but you can't thought police people. You can't have a democracy and a free country and thought police people. What you can do is to educate people, to promote an alternative, to have a conversation. They're still human beings, okay? They're still going to have reason. They're not communists. By the way, I'm joking. But my point is that you can actually have a conversation with them and try to persuade them. Simply making that they go away is not going to solve the problem. In fact, the problem itself, I am willing to argue, is that the terrorist attack in Pittsburgh, like you mentioned before, was upset that he is constantly being marginalized and not allowed to express himself. And he went like, screw your optics, I'm going again. Like, if someone were to talk with him and de-radicalize him, try to have a conversation, maybe that would have been avoided. But certainly censorship did not help stop it. Like, censorship did not avoid that. And people are pointing at Gab. Well, if it wasn't Gab, he would have gone somewhere else. It's not like you can isolate people from society entirely. Or I guess you could, technically, but then you wouldn't have a free society. You'd have the thought police going around. And while you can punish some people who are actually guilty, you're going to also punish a lot of innocents and have a lot of collateral. It is the exact same thing as the Red Scare in America, where you go after every communist, try to get him fired. And I'm sure like a lot of communists were hit by it. But there were probably people who weren't communists that also got affected by that moral panic. Though I don't know if that was actually a moral panic or a real scare. But still, right, you get the gist of it. So now it's interesting. They're quoting a BuzzFeed article. Like you see the Wall Street Journal going to this tabloid publication and quoting it as a source. How desperate must you be? Why not conduct your own research rather than legitimize this rag? But by the way, this is a tactic in agitprop that's used quite often. It's the idea of controlled opposition. I'm not sure it's what we're seeing here, but I would like to mention it for people to know that it exists. You can have two publications, like two newspapers. One is left-leaning, one is right-leaning, and they're constantly bickering with each other. They're constantly, fighting with each other and having different viewpoints. But when it reaches something that matters, when it's about something that's actually important, they will all agree with it. So what this causes is in the mind of the people is that, well, if these two sources that are always contradicting each other, if they agree now on these things, surely this must be such an important issue that we should all agree with it. So it creates like this image into the public that, yeah, this is actually such a horrible issue that even the left and the right agree with it, and the left and the right are always arguing, so now we need to support it. When YouTube temporarily suspends a channel for violation, that creator often appears as a guest on a like-minded person's channel until the ban is lifted. The problem of YouTube said that the research is YouTube is going to be continuously trying to apply a technological fix. So this is exactly what happened to Zidane. Like they're actually talking about the fact that when Ethan Ralph was deplatformed, he went on Zidane's. So it's not that they just want people to be punished as content creators and have it shut down. No, they want you to have like a permanent exile from the YouTube community. And I guess this is also fear-mongering for people to not have Alex Jones on or anyone else that got banned from YouTube. Now, Mr. Ralph didn't respond to a request for comment. Like, why would he? You are character assassinating him. You are going for his livelihood. Why on earth would he entertain you? You're being completely disingenuous in this. Now, after the journal approached YouTube with a question for this article, Ralph opened up a new live stream by reading about what he said about a super chat submitted earlier in that day. The stream continued for more than 20 minutes before it was shut down after violating YouTube's policy for hate speech. St. Jude Children's Hospital this week arranged to return donations raised in September. So we're talking about $26,000. Now, okay, so let's talk about the donation thing, because it's very controversial, right? On one hand, people blame St. Jude for returning the money. Now, you have to understand this has happened in the past. Atheists gathered up money and Christians complained, so the donations were refunded. There was, during Gamergate, this operation by 4chan called Chemo for Butthurt, where they got donations for prostate cancer, and feminists complained, and the hospital refunded. You have a case of MRAs gathering donations, and again, feminists complained, and it was refunded. And now you have this. Now, why do hospitals, for example, refund donations? Well, think about it this way. If they have a lot of Jewish organizations or Jewish individuals donating money for them, and they find out that a far-right group also donated money, yeah, they will have to basically choose between which one they want to keep, like the people that are donating constantly or this one-off time big donation. And they will usually side with the people that give them more money. So this is more like a business sense rather than an ideological one. However, for the Wall Street Journal, I believe it's fully ideological. Like, I have absolutely no doubt that the conversation went like, la 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 la. Yeah, St. Jude, yeah, I'm from the Wall Street Journal. Yeah, we're investigating this story about a hate group full of Nazis that have donated $26,000 to you. So please tell us, are you going to keep the money? You know, and the reason they're doing this is because they want to portray the YouTube community as being far-right. And being far-right means that you are the most awful, horrible person on the face of the earth. There is no redeemable qualities about you. And it needs to be this way so that people can justify the deplatforming, the unpersoning, right? It is the whole idea of dehumanization. And if members from the far right would donate $26,000 in super chats to hospitals, yeah, that kind of goes against the narrative. They wouldn't be just black. There would start to appear shades of gray. And of course, they can't have any of that, which is why they definitely attack the super chat. They attack this super chat for good idea. At least that's what I think. And I also think that it might be that the reason Ethan was targeted is because he managed to gain money for a charity. Like, I think that if the Hill stream wouldn't have happened, maybe this article could have been delayed or someone else would have been targeted. when contracted earlier this week, St. Jude said it was aware of the chat, and at this point, I don't even know if I should believe the Wall Street Journal anymore, because they constantly lied up till now. So why would I all of a sudden give them the benefit of the doubt? YouTube also took down a live stream by far-right personality Jean-François Jeripi that was broadcast after the Pittsburgh shooting and included... sorry, I can't help it. I should talk it more serious. Included a number of anti-Semitic and racist comments in the paid super chats. Now, here's what I love about Mr. Jean-François Jeripi. Now, the way he handles this is absolutely amazing. Like, he is genius level in the way he handled this and just fucks it up in the end. So, in the beginning, he basically says that his channel doesn't allow hate speech and that he tries to delete super chats. Now, this is interesting, right? Because you can't delete super chats. I'm not aware of this being possible. But he phrases like he tries to delete super chats. I mean, I guess, he sees the super chat on the screen and you can hear angry mouse clicking noises in the background as he tries to move it away or remove it or delete it, right? So he technically might try, like proof he doesn't try to delete them. However, I'm not aware of this function existing. So the Wall Street Journal not doing their investigation shows. They could have called him out on the bullshit, but, since they don't do basic investigation, just lie to them. Just there's no reason to be honest with them because they're not going to fact check it anyway. So anyway, they go on and they point out to the fact that he also says that some super chats are either hateful or that constitute calls for violence. He removes, and to be fair to Mr. Jeripi, he saw this coming a mile away. Like, I listened to a stream of his where he calls himself a feminist, where he started censoring his guests, and, this shows that he did foresee that this is going to happen. He said his channel has banned thousands of viewers from his channel for repeatedly violating the policy, and I don't think he banned thousands, but maybe he did. Who knows? Mr. Jaripi also calls himself a white nationalist, says he doesn't see a problem with people referencing 4088 or Hitler. So up to this point, he acts like this very, think about your mom reading this newspaper, right? And your mom just can't handle people who are far right, like the soccer mom. The average Joe. And you're basically reading this and it's like, oh yeah, this Jeripi guy, why are they picking on him? And all of a sudden, there's no problem referencing Hitler or 1488. They're encouraging people to gain a better historical understanding of Germany during the first half of the century. He added that it would be easy for YouTube to prohibit donations made in that amount if they differ from my interpretation. So it's funny because, Jean-François, they're smearing you. They're trying to make you look like a Nazi. Mentioning Hitler, just mentioning it. Even if, you're trying to spin it in a positive way. It's like, you're trying to get people interested in history or something. I don't think it's going to work in your favor for the soccer mom reading the article, demanding your blood. Just saying. But other than that, no, really good response. This was a long video, but I think it was important because a lot of things here had to be analyzed. And I also had to push it out today because, the story is going to get older and older as things move on. Tomorrow I'll be talking about Tucker Carlson and how the other blue check marks on Twitter reacted to the fact that he had an angry mob of Antifa outside his house wearing masks, asking him to leave town. Very interesting. We'll be talking about that. And I hope you enjoy my channel. I know I got a lot of new subscribers. Don't know what brought you here, but thank you for subscribing, and I'll see you all tomorrow.